It is Monday, October 27th, 2025. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Early in the morning, tracking this. I'll have continued updates for you throughout the day. If you subscribe, you'll get those updates first. You'll get those notifications. So thank you for being part of this weather community. All right, watching this. Here is Melissa. Now, what's happening overnight, what I've been watching, that westerly movement we've seen. And we talked about this several days ago, kind of waiting to see how far it goes west, when it makes that turn. So now I'm able to really fine-tune even more of the impacts. I've put some down a little bit in our western zones, higher in our, down a little bit in our eastern zones, higher in some of our western zones. I want to break it down area by area. We're going to zoom right down into Jamaica in this video. We'll take a look down the road. I want to show you the impacts of the potential of a major hurricane in eastern Cuba, where we need to prepare for hurricane impacts in parts of the Bahamas, and watching the Turks and Caicos, and more rain pushing in to parts of Haiti. Now, it's still generally moving to the west, but if you put a line on this, it is starting to gain latitude. By that, I mean it's moving a little bit now more north than west as a whole. So it's starting to take its turn. Another sign we're starting to see it taking its turn as it's slowing down. It's moving to the west at 6 kilometers an hour, 3 miles per hour. So as they start to turn, they really slow, but it could move a little bit more to the west. But you almost see in that last frame just starting to take a hint of more of that northerly turn. But this core here, this white shading we're seeing here, that's where we have the catastrophic rain and, again, the winds that are going to be coming our way. All of Jamaica, we're going to see impacts. We're going to see significant impacts. That's why we've been making those preparations. Of course, the time frame for all of this has slowed a little bit, no doubt, because of how this has moved to the west. But there's a front up here. There's a front moving through the southeast United States. That is the one that is now starting to kind of impact this and make it turn. That's why there's reasoning for that. So it's not going to keep shooting off to the west, but at least temporarily a little bit to the west. But we're seeing signs of that curve now. And then eventually, as we work our way really into late today, it just gets worse. And then tonight, it moves in with a landfall late tonight, early tomorrow, right into Jamaica. I'll zoom down for us in that. And then it will be lifting its way tomorrow night into eastern Cuba, right up through Guantanamo Bay, and then lifting its way up. Could be close to Long Island, a little bit more Crooked Island, watching the Bahamas carefully. We'll talk about the winds in the Turks and Caicos, and of course, the additional rain, especially for the peninsula of Haiti. I'll cover all of that. I'm doing my best not to leave anyone out, to answer all of your questions in these videos. So again, thank you for being a part of this channel. Now, as we look at what's going on right now, of course, the red, we have the hurricane warnings out. It is a Category 5 hurricane at this point. It'll fluctuate. Category 5 hurricanes, sometimes the eye kind of collapses and then rebuilds. They're kind of breathing. They're so big. They're so strong that they have fluctuations. It will make landfall as a Category 4, Category 5. Winds right now 160 miles per hour or 260 kilometers an hour. Right in the core of this, the pressure has dropped. Again, yesterday, the pressure was, I'm just trying to remember, I did a lot of videos. It was 946 at one point, went down to 941. When pressure drops, all you need to know is it's strengthening. The pressure this morning is down to 917. That is alarming, and that's why this is now a Category 5 hurricane. It is sitting 205 kilometers to the south-southwest of Kingston, or 130 miles to the south-southwest of Kingston at this point. All right, taking a look at the winds, and with this, we need to shelter in place throughout the day. Again, we're not going to have, this is 11 this morning. You know me, I always keep it in perspective. We're not going to have a lot of wind in our northern sections. We're still in that pattern where some of us are saying, hey, what storm? Where is this thing? Well, here it is, and it will start to come as we hit about midday today. You see some of the winds that will start to clip our southern coast of about 70 miles per hour. I have 70 miles, or I have miles per hour and kilometers an hour on your screen to give you a good feel. But here is the core of it right here. So the southern coast first, we get the impacts, and then we start to see it really working in for tonight. This is overnight tonight. You can see by the time we hit 2 in the morning, this is where the dangerous core of this is going to be, anywhere really right in through here. And here's the center of this. It looks like it'll try to make landfall tomorrow morning, 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock. Black River, Treasure Beach, somewhere in there. And that means the core of this is sitting here. Kingston, I still have some question marks. I want to talk about that. Kingston off toward the east. I'm going to highlight that. But here's the center of this thing. Dangerous winds. You see some of these yellows popping up here. There will be some greens. This model's not kind of feeling that it is a category 5. I don't just look at the models. The model's a little bit underdone. The winds are going to be even stronger. We know that. We see that now on the satellite. And then you can see here, lifting to the north, still by 2 p.m. tomorrow, north coast as it pulls away, seeing some hurricane conditions, and then eventually getting out of here. So again, it's a slow go right now. It's going to get worse. The high impacts tonight, right? The landfall by early tomorrow morning, still high impacts through the first half of tomorrow, and then improving as it leaves. We need an end in sight. This will work its way away as we work our way late into our Tuesday, late tomorrow. So we're in that window now. We want to be in our safe place. Be where you need to be with the storm. Again, some of us, and I've been talking with so many of our folks, so many of my friends across Jamaica, there's not a lot in some spots now, but as these rain bands work in, especially in our southern zones, that's where we're going to get the tropical storm impacts first, and then the hurricane impacts for tonight. So you see here, this is 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. 5 p.m. today, the center's still here, but then we get some of the heavy rain moving in. This is the rain that could give us those catastrophic amounts of rain, 500 plus millimeters of rain. Here's the center of this, and you could even see all of us dealing with the heavy rain in this red shading here. Very dangerous winds, especially in the core of this. That's what I want to zoom down to, kind of where the core of the extreme winds will go. I'll show you some maps on that. I'm trying to get as specific as I can for you. I'm giving you everything I've got with this system. Black River back through Treasure Beach. Somewhere in here, we're looking at the landfall. In this core, very dangerous winds. Spanish Town, St. Anne's, Falmouth, back through Montego Bay, swinging down to the south, right? And then lifting up to the north, we'll see that surge of Milk River back through Black River, and then the center of this by tomorrow morning still along our north coast, and with that, those dangerous winds still around it. In the rain, mudslides, a high likelihood. We know that. We've been talking about that together. We've been preparing for that, and then it starts to move away, but still our northeast coast, which may not get a lot initially, kind of on the back side of it as it pulls away because it's going to curve. We could get some actually the heaviest weather along northeast sections by the time we work our way deeper into tomorrow. So you kind of think things may be okay, and then you kind of get hit on the way out with this system. So specifically because of that more westerly movement we talked about in the last video, and there's going to be more changes. What happens with a big system is they kind of wobble. They don't just take a straight line. As they're moving, they kind of wobble back and forth. And that's a big difference on depending on if we have winds of 150 or maybe 90 in some spots, right? So I always let you know what I know and what I don't know. And I know these things. I have tracked these for decades. They wobble. They do kind of different things. So thank you for your patience, kindness, no doubt, as I try to fine tune this best I can. So as we work our way late in the day, we'll start to see the winds picking up in our north zones as we get the heavier rain bands. So in those rain bands, we'll get some tropical storm gusts. But again, the slow go until we get to that point. As we work our way, and with that, please try to get some rest if you can. Even if you wake up and you watch this kind of afterward, please try to get some rest, because tonight it is going to be so noisy and dangerous in many locations. Now, we're watching in through here. We'll start to get some of the winds roughly around 70. Again, late in the day, that's when things are going to be picking up. The hurricane's still just to the south, but as we work our way into tonight, this hurricane is on top of us with a landfall of a Category 4, Category 5. As far as the impacts go, there's a difference, but there's not a huge difference. Either way, Category 4, Category 5, immense impacts either way, right? So if you hear it go from a 5 to a 4, just remember that Brian was saying that these things kind of breathe. They change a little bit as we go through. It's not a huge weakening. It's just a fluctuation which happens. Tonight, here are the winds we're looking at. as this pulls on shore, right around 150-mile-per-hour winds, looking Mandeville back through Treasure Beach, back through Black River as this moves in. We swing into our extreme western sections, including Montego Bay. We're going to have some of the winds that could be as high as 125 miles per hour. Especially, again, it's starting to hint at that turn, but if it keeps moving a little bit more west, these winds may even be a little bit higher from Montego Bay. If it starts to make that turn a little bit sooner, again, starting now, the winds may be a little bit less, and you could see these changes that are really hard to kind of capture, but doing what I can for you. Now, as we work our way forward into our eastern sections, now with that, Kingston is tricky because I'm really waiting on the turn. Winds may be, we're going to have some hurricane winds in Kingston, right? But with that said, if this is a little bit more to the west, they may not be as high as 110. They could be a little bit lower. But either way, hurricane impacts are coming. Just depends on the wobble. As this thing comes in, if it gets a little wobble, say over toward Mandeville, that would give us winds of 110. If it's a little bit more toward Black River, the winds may be 70 to about 90 miles per hour. So trust your judgment. So thank you for understanding that as these things kind of wobble as they work in. That's the same thing for our northeast coast as this kind of swings around. But you see what we're dealing with for tonight into early tomorrow. All of us, the hurricane impacts, of course, right where this goes, that's where they're going to be worse. So really trying to fine tune this close to Mandeville, Treasure Beach, Black River, up through Falmouth and St. Anne's on the edge of Montego Bay as this category 5 or 4 works in. These are the gusts, and in this zone, which right now does not include Spanish Town or Kingston, in this zone here, those are the extreme winds. We'll have tropical storm and hurricane winds elsewhere, of course, but in this, we could have some gusts of about 170 miles per hour right along the coast, right in through here along the coast. Then, of course, as it hits the mountains. Now, the mountains, we're actually going to start to get the winds, since we're up higher, we're going to start to get the winds sooner throughout the day. So to give you a heads up, the winds in the mudslide threat, if you're up in the mountains, that actually starts sooner. Again, elevation does matter. And then as this moves in, even as we swing into northern sections, right in this zone here, some of the winds could gust as high as about 120 to about 130. Severe structure damage, power loss for weeks, and isolation of communities. I don't mean that to be scary. I mean that really, you know about this. We've been talking about this together, maybe your family members outside of Jamaica. Communication will be cut off, and again, we could lose power in some spots for weeks, if not or even longer in some locations. But this is the zone of high concern right through here. Then what happens next, and I'll expand everything out, the winds, the rain in just a moment. This will work its way into eastern Cuba as we work our way into tomorrow night, right? The center could pull right over Guantanamo Bay with winds 100 to 110 miles per hour. It'll be a little bit weaker because it'll pass over Jamaica, but with that, still right around major hurricane status, category 2, category 3 hurricane, category 3 and higher. That's a major hurricane. And then it will move into the southeastern Bahamas, not the northern Bahamas. Northern Bahamas dealing with a front, another system coming out of the U.S. So this is not coming to Freeport or New Providence, but really watching anywhere from Long Island south. Some of the winds could be near 100 miles per hour, 160 kilometers an hour. Turks and Caicos, we're going to be on the edge of hurricane conditions. We're making the preps in case, winds of about 60 miles per hour or 96 kilometers an hour. That's what I'm seeing as of now. And just like I'm doing for Jamaica, I'll adjust these numbers as we go forward because there's going to be changes. That's just the reality of this as this moves in. But a lot has held, right? The dangerous hurricane impacts coming to Jamaica, the dangerous rain coming. Look at these rain totals. Still some additional spots could get over 300 millimeters of rain in parts of Haiti. So it's still going to be coming down in the peninsula of Haiti. I've been talking with some folks on the ground over toward Jacmel, and again, the winds are also going to pick up as this works its way into Jamaica. Jamaica, we're going to have those totals 500 to about 750 millimeters of rain. You see the scale on the right-hand side of your screen. That would lend itself to about 20 to 30 inches. High rain amounts for eastern Cuba, but they're going to be lesser as we get up into here. Because it's going to move faster. This sucker is just hanging out south of Jamaica now, very slowly moving in, but as it lifts to the north, it will eventually speed up, and that keeps some of the rain totals down. But you see kind of a broad brush across much of Jamaica, even Kingston, for example. Even if our winds they're going to be strong, we know that, but even if they're not epically strong or whatever word you want to use, not only are we going to have strong winds, but we're going to have that rain. Even if the center's over here, we get that onshore flow, and all of that rain just continues to pile up. And days ago, we had some rain, and that wasn't even, or some flooding, and that wasn't even with Melissa. So upwards of 750 millimeters of rain possible. If we don't get that, we'll have some totals that may get around 250, but it looks like everyone about 250 and higher. That's going to lead to some record rain amounts with this. And again, the dangerous mudslides, which can cut off communities, because that will could kind of wash away some roads in some spots. And then you see as we lift to the north, the rain total is not quite as high, and we'll see exactly where this core goes. There's the additional rain, over 200, maybe 300 millimeters of rain back toward the south coast of Haiti and parts of the southwest coast of the Dominican Republic. I've been watching the Dominican Republic. Now, as far as the surge goes, again, one of the changes we've had is more of that westerly track. So we're still waiting on that bigger turn, which will happen, but it's a matter of just kind of waiting and seeing at this point together. And that's what we'll track together. But that means the surge impacts, even as you get over toward Westmoreland, back through Black River on the higher side, swinging all the way back through. We're going to still have a significant surge over toward Kingston, but more so in this sector here. Very concerned about Treasure Beach. If you're around that, if you're a little bit off toward the east, a little bit off toward the west, that surge is the abnormal rise in the water. And then you have the waves on top of that, which I'll show you later in this video. 2.5 to 4 meters, 9 to 13 feet. I've raised it over toward Montego Bay. Even as this moves away toward St. Anne on the back side of it, we're going to see the heavier winds kind of pulling in. So we're looking at 1 to 1.5 meters over toward Montego Bay, 3 to about 5 feet. Northeast sections, we're looking at about up to a meter, about 1 to 3 feet, to kind of give you a feel of the abnormal rise in the water. Storm surge is deadly, so we need to be out of the way from that. That's something we've been talking about for days and days. Of course, we're in action mode. Now, I put Long Island in action mode just because, again, just to see if this is going to be a later turn. Say this keeps going west a little bit longer today, that means it would be more of a track up here. If it starts to turn now, that would be more toward Crooked Island. So Long Island south, we should be making those hurricane preparations, right? Even in the Turks and Caicos, because if this makes if it starts to turn over the next couple hours, it could be a little bit closer, but we're making those hurricane preparations, and a lot of us are about to lose power if we haven't done so already. So I really appreciate you getting this information out, because this could be the last time somebody sees this video before the system moves in. I want to express what I'm seeing now. And again, I've been highlighting some of the changes that we could see, some of the uncertainty in eastern Jamaica, for example, some of the uncertainty around Kingston, some of the higher winds around Montego Bay, the potential landfall at Treasure Beach. Let's really get this information out. And again, we'll have some changes as we go forward, but that's what we'll be tracking. Then down the road, watching Bermuda, but all of the models, even the Canadian model is far to the, it's kind of the western model. That even takes it pretty much right over the extreme western sections of Jamaica. And you see here how it's going to make that turn. Systems do turn. If you look at historical systems, they take crazy turns. Sometimes they wobble. Dorian a few years back just got stuck in place. The front moving through the U.S., which I'll show you. A lot of questions about why is it going to do this. I'll show you. And we'll keep an eye not just on Bermuda, but over toward Newfoundland and the Avalon Peninsula. So if you subscribe, you'll get those updates, of course. Track storms start to finish, because I don't want to leave anyone hanging. That's what we do together on this channel. So Category 4, Category 5, we know that. And then it will run into the Blue Mountains. It'll weaken a little bit, but still, as we get into 36 and 48 hours out, we're still looking at about a major hurricane, Category 3, running into eastern Cuba. As you let your friends and family in Cuba know about this, again, it's not western sections, it's not central sections, it's extreme eastern sections of Cuba where this is going. Messaging, of course, very important, because I like to let you know, of course, where a storm's going, but also where it is not. It is such a high anxiety time, as I don't need to tell you about that, as we well know. So here it is. Here's the core of this, just expanding out the view, and I want to show you the winds as well, and then the really wide view, including parts of the U.S. with that system that is helping to turn this, and over toward Canada. Here's the center of this. Again, that heavy rain moving in out ahead of it. So you'll know throughout the day, even if we have those calm times this morning, a big time system is moving in, and then tonight it really starts to move in. South coast first, the hurricane conditions, and then it moves in overnight. We'll have that landfall overnight around roughly 5 in the morning, give or take a couple hours, right near Treasure Beach, watching a Black River. The extreme conditions with us. That's what I was zooming down to. A few question marks with the, not with the rain, but with some of the winds in our eastern zones. Should be a little bit less than what I had a couple days ago, and then a little bit more in our western sections. And then you can see it here, still sitting almost on top of us late in the morning, tomorrow morning, and then just to the north, there's the heavier weather. But then we get the heavier weather late in the day, starting to work into eastern Cuba. Meanwhile, Haiti and the Dominican Republic, as this goes up and around, just bands of rain move in. That's why we still have that life-threatening situation. You can see the bands of rain there. And then by tomorrow night, the landfall, there's Guantanamo Bay moving right in. Again, extreme eastern sections of Cuba, and then it's going to lift to the north, watching Long Island over toward Crooked Island. We'll start to get the rain working in tomorrow night, and then early on Wednesday, moving into the southern Bahamas near the Turks and Caicos. You can see it right here, southeastern Bahamas, especially near Crooked Island in south. We're making the preps Long Island in south. Turks and Caicos, there is a chance more of this could stay just to the north. We'll just kind of have to wait and see, but we're not taking chances, right? We want to be prepared, so we're making those preparations. Long Island south, back through the Turks and Caicos. Now you can see the winds here. The white shading are the tropical storm winds, basically in Jamaica, as we get the rain bands working in today. In those, we have the tropical storm winds, and then after sunset, we get the true hurricane winds that will be moving in. It really feels like sometimes these hurricanes always hit at night. They're long duration events, so oftentimes they do. And of course, it is scarier at night. The winds will be moving in, showing you this, and thinking of the kids, please let them know it's going to be noisy tonight. If there's kind of a calm period tonight, before the heaviest weather moves in, or at least not as windy, where it's a little quieter, maybe try to get them to bed then, so hopefully they can sleep through a lot of this. And then this will be lifting up toward the north. You see here, by the time we get into tomorrow night, right into Cuba as expected. Still the strong tropical storm winds at times in parts of Haiti. It's just been relentless. Kind of started first in the DR and Haiti, and it's still raining. And then we lift to the north here. This is by Wednesday morning, and you see the red shading. That's really the hurricane winds very close to the Turks and Caicos, monitoring very carefully. Crooked Island, watching Long Island, just because if this does move to the west a little bit more, it could run into Long Island, and then trying to lift into the Atlantic as we get deeper into Wednesday. I want to show you the wide view in just a second. So Jamaica, the worst weather of all of this arrives tonight, but some of the flooding really starts. Mudslides will be starting in spots today. Again, higher terrain first with the rain and some of the wind that we're going to see, and along the southern coast. So please seek your safe spot. It's going to be a long go. It'll be an incredibly long night, we know. I'm trying to give you the good news as far as the end in sight as we get deeper into tomorrow. But in between now and then, that is when the worst weather's moving in. Record floods, record rain amounts, and of course those extreme winds. Communication cut off. We'll have some isolation of communities, and that is something I'll be trying to spread some of that information, exactly what's going on after the storm as well. Here are the wave heights, and then I'll show you everything going on to the north. Of course, we talked about the surge, which is deadly. If you're in one of those zones where that surge moves in, that's the ocean coming in. You have the waves on top of it. You can see meters here, feet on the right-hand side of your screen. Here's that system coming off the southeast U.S. Right here, so some high seas. This is not related to Melissa. This is Melissa here, and you see those seas that will work in. This here is by Wednesday, the very dangerous seas. Of course, a hurricane's moving into the southeastern Bahamas by the time we get into Wednesday, and then eventually this area will be shooting its way out into the Atlantic, and we'll see just how close this gets to Bermuda down the road. It won't be in the same form as it gets to Bermuda, but it could be a kind of a fast-moving hurricane. Conditions will be a possibility. Here is that. Now, I wanted to show you why this thing is turning. It's this system here. I mentioned, I think a week ago, you could go back and look at my videos, that these fronts would be key moving by. It is this one here that's going to bring that rain to Bermuda, at least initially, parts of the the U.S. as well. This one grabs it. It gives it an alleyway to kind of lift and get tied into it. And then a second front here kind of gives it its final kick. So it's these fronts. And that's why the forecast is tricky. In autumn, deep into autumn, we're dealing with all these fronts up here, which we don't have to deal with really in the summertime. It's a little bit easier in the summertime sometimes with the forecast, but you see these fronts kind of pulling it in. As we work our way into Thursday night, that's when it will be close to Bermuda. Some of the models, including the Google DeepMind, have it just off into Bermuda or just off toward the south. We'll see how this all shakes out if this kind of works its way in, and then I'll keep an eye on the Atlantic region of Canada. That is a bit down the road. So again, a hurricane coming to Jamaica. I showed you some of the changes. I'll let you know about some of the uncertainties with some of the winds. We know about the rain. We need to shelter in place. So whatever this does, hopefully, I really hope at times we get some good breaks. Maybe, I don't know what could happen, but maybe it has that eye wall fluctuation right before making landfall. It goes down a little bit. We'll see together at this point, but we have no choice. This is a Category 5 hurricane sitting on our doorstep, and we're starting to see it gain latitude, starting to lift up to the north now. Cayman Islands, it looks like almost all of this will be staying off toward the east. We're not even in monitor mode at this point. Trinidad and Tobago, isolated shower storm. We're looking at a very isolated chance from Barbados back through St. Lucia, rain chance running at 20%. All islands, no doubt, are thinking of Jamaica and locations down the road. You see that in the comments section. Grenada, back through St. Vincent the Grenadines, rain chance 20, maybe 30%. Isolated passing shower. Martinique, we'll do that again. Dominica, as we go throughout the day, back through Guadeloupe, rain chance will be holding at 30% by the time we get into the middle of the week. Antigua, Barbuda, rain chance on the low side, 20 to 30% chance. St. Kitts and Nevis and Montserrat, 30% chance today. Anguilla and St. Bart's, 20% chance. St. Martin, Saba and Statia, 40% chance. Some of those outer rain bands, though, for parts of Puerto Rico, which could lead to more isolated areas of flooding, and about a 30, maybe 40% chance today, U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Of course, the Bahamas, all eyes on tomorrow night into Wednesday, and rain chance is at 100% because, again, other parts of the Bahamas are not getting this. Over 700 islands. Again, northern Bahamas are not getting this. Keeping an eye on the central Bahamas, we're really looking at the southeastern Bahamas for the impacts of this. Same thing in the Turks and Caicos. It looks like tropical storm conditions, borderline hurricane conditions, depending on the track of this. The Dominican Republic, especially South Coast, additional flooding as we work our way through Haiti, which I've been highlighting for days and days. Meanwhile, Belize, rain chance pretty low, 20 to 30%. Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire, rain chance staying on the low side, just about 20%. We move toward Guyana, rain chance 30% the next few days, a 20% chance in Suriname, and then we work our way back toward Cuba again. Extreme eastern sections, that's where major Hurricane Melissa will be going. Costa Rica, Panama, rain chance going down a little bit, about a 70% chance today, 50% chance in Nicaragua. We lift to the north, back through Honduras, rain chance about 40%. In the next few days, Guatemala and El Salvador, 30 to 40% chance. Mexico City, 20% chance of a shower. Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, about a 30% chance of a passing shower. Northern Colombia, back through northern Venezuela, rain chance running at 50%. And of course, all eyes on Bermuda. First, we'll get some rain from that system from the U.S., but all eyes will be on Melissa to see how close it gets, to see if we get any impacts later this week. So direct hurricane hit for Jamaica, Category 4, Category 5 at landfall, record rain, floods, and winds. We're taking that action in East Cuba, southeastern Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos as Melissa will eventually lift to the north. So Jamaica, please, please, please be safe. You want to be in your safe spot as we go throughout the day. Worse weather late today, tonight, into the first half of tomorrow. I will be with you every step of the way. I got you covered best I can. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your kindness. Be safe.